All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Sylvester Inspires Belief Cast. I'm excited once again to be with you today, and I want to thank all of you for honestly supporting this and believing in me. And we've had some amazing guests on, and today is no different. I have a really good friend and someone I've known for a long time, Janae Chandler. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I'm excited for you guys to hear her story and hear what she's doing to better the lives of all of us, and you'll be inspired by her. I do want to give some shout out to our sponsor again, Veracity Networks. Thank you for believing in me as well. I'm so excited for your support. It's really helped get. I was just talking with Janae. I think we're up to 64,000 downloads, which is crazy for me to think when I first started this. And so I want to thank everybody. This has been so fantastic, and I'm so grateful for people like you, Janae, who come share your amazing stories because it inspires and helps other people. And so thank you so much. I want to give you a little background on Janae. She teaches family finance in the School of Family Life at Brigham Young University. She has worked with the state of education, training teachers on personal finance education, and served on the board of several nonprofit organizations aimed at improving financial literacy in Utah. And I know you're really passionate about this, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I can't wait to hear more about this. She's married to a great guy named Josh. They have, 4 amazing children. They're beautiful kids. They really are. They're amazing. We're going to talk about them here in a minute as well. And again, I just know you're really passionate about finances, and I don't know the way you would even say it, but like financial health.
Yeah.
Is that a good way to say it?
That's a great way to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, but before we get there, I know that, I just want the listeners to get to know you a little bit better. So tell us where you grew up and a little bit about your family.
Yeah, so I grew up, I am from a big family. I've got 5 brothers and a sister, so there's 7 of us kids.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, really big family.
Where do you fall in line?
I'm the 5th.
Okay.
So I have 2 little brothers, and then the rest are older
really?
than me. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, but we're a boy family. My brothers are wrestlers. My dad's a wrestling coach.
Oh, really?
So we are like sports and athletics was my growing up.
Was your brothers always trying to wrestle you?
Oh, yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They were.
Right.
Even though my dad would be like, girls don't wrestle, right?
Yeah, right. Leave her alone. Don't hurt her, right? You probably got pretty good at wrestling.
Yeah, you have to defend yourself. And I was bigger than my little brothers for a while, but then pretty soon,
yeah.
Just got to let that go.
Right on. That's awesome. How was it growing up in your family? Like, what was it like? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I bet so. The most kind of formative part of my growing up, when I was right before I started school, my dad, we had all the 7 kids, and my dad decided to go back to get a PhD.
Oh, wow.
And we packed up from Utah and moved to Oklahoma, all these kids, and my parents were very frugal, and they were going to do this in a frugal way, and we lived in a duplex with 3 bedrooms.
Oh, really?
With all these kids. And I have a brother who's mentally handicapped, so he needed his own bedroom.
Okay.
The rest of us kids were in a bedroom.
You're
so
kidding me.
2 bunk beds, pull out the mattress, and this was these are kind of some of my earliest memories.
Was it fun though? Like this,
it was a party.
I bet it was. Yeah, crazy in that bedroom.
And after 1 year of school, my mom had been looking around in the neighborhood, and she found a different house to rent that had a few more bedrooms. It was like 4 bedrooms. And the story they tell in the family is that I went into the house and I put my hands out and spun around. I was like, I can put my hands out and not touch anybody.
That's funny. It's funny that you would notice something like that, right?
Right.
Man.
So that was, that's the family we grew up in. Very frugal. Yeah. My parents were very frugal. We, when we were on vacation, we teased my mom that we didn't have we didn't go out to eat for sure.
Right.
We had a big block of cheese, like the welfare cheese. That's what we say it was. And you have a chunk of cheese and an apple.
That's hilarious. Are you serious? Wow. That's interesting.
And it was great. It was such happy memories of my childhood. But I think that my interest in money, or my parents taught me about saving, and I think I had a big sense of that's where you get a lot of your life security, is being
really
making sure you're thoughtful about your money and your finances.
So just watching kind of the example of your parents, you were already starting to go internalizing it, going, okay, this makes sense, and I see that this actually matters.
Yeah. And and my parent, love to work was my dad's life motto.
Right.
He would always be like, love to work.
Right.
And we all love to work in my family.
That's good though. That's a good thing that's a good quality to have, actually, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's really just, and then it makes it fun, right? Like I'm working because it's a fun thing for me to do, and it's really rewarding in itself.
Well, I mean, like I mentioned in the beginning, I've known you for a long time now, and you're a very positive person. I mean, you just seem really positive and calm. And is that how you've kind of always been, even as a young child, or is that something you kind of learned through the process of struggling, or how did you, how are you like this? I guess
I do think. I mean, I'm the fifth of a big family. I think that just rolling with the punches is a big part of
truly rolling with the
how
punches,
it goes,
right?
Yeah. And I have always sort of just I'm kind of my one daughter Evelyn is so much like this, and I can see this. I just kind of do my own thing. My parents told me when I was little that they couldn't punish me because they would send me to my room and I would just be the happiest. I would just make it the biggest play.
You're she's not upset.
She's not upset.
What's going on?
She's just this is so fun. I'm just gonna make this really fun now.
So that's just kind of your personality, just kind of take things as it goes.
I think so.
Wow. Is that what people would say about you that know you really, really close? They'd say, hey, she just kind of goes with the flow?
Yeah, my husband might say I'm controlling.
Right.
I don't roll with it. I make it happen the way I want to.
Well, that's good. Our wives need to control us to keep us in line. So I think that's a good thing, right?
Right.
So were you close to your siblings as well? I mean, were you guys like a tight-knit group as well growing up, or did you guys kind of do your own thing? Or
yeah, I think we're pretty close. I think that there was a little bit of a difference between the boys and the girls.
Right.
Dad was the coach to all the boys, and so they had that coaching dynamic. And I think that was a little bit different with my sister and I, that he I don't think my dad, he didn't view us as athletes like my brothers, and so our relation, and he doesn't want to have that type of relationship with us. But my dad was great, and so my dad took a lot of interest in our education and our development intellectually. So I remember just as a tiny kid, my dad just talking to me about things he was reading and things he was thinking about, and I think that was super formative to me to say, oh, this adult thinks that I can, he'll ask me questions about big topics and he thinks I have something worthwhile to say.
Wow.
That was, and the thing he would always say to us is, I want you and your sister to be PhD moms, meaning that he wanted us to be moms at the highest level.
Right.
And that's really what he encouraged from us.
I think that's so cool what you said. Your dad felt, I mean, here your dad's asking you these kind of big questions, and way I'm hearing you is it almost gave you confidence in yourself by oh wow, he's saying these things to me, but at the same time, I don't know if your dad even realized that he's cultivating this confidence in you.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. And so obviously he was very, your family was very into education. And obviously we talked about, you saw how they saved money and things like that. Yeah. And so as you moved on and you got to high school, what was high school like for you?
I think I was pretty, honestly, kind of oblivious. I was I'm...
Okay.
The truth, I mean, Josh and I went to high school together. And
did you? I didn't know that.
I just kind of was doing my own thing. So I was actually the hilarious. So I'm just kind of I had great friends, had an awesome friend group, and loved them. We're kind of the nerds. We're in the honors classes, and we were that kind of group. And then when I was a senior, I was voted to be the prom queen.
Really?
Which totally shocked me. I've always kind of thought of it as, when they pick the special needs person to be the prom queen.
So you thought they were doing it just to be nice?
I thought I didn't have that concept of myself as someone. I was totally thrown off guard that I would be someone that people even knew my name. My brother was a student body officer, and he was kind of like, oh, my sister needs some help, like he was like telling people like, help her out, So I just didn't have that concept of myself as being someone who people knew or that was popular at all.
So did you feel like awkward going through that process of being the prom queen, or did you at that point just enjoy it?
Yeah, I think I was just oblivious enough that I could just roll with all of that, because I was just like, this is strange. What a strange thing that this would happen. But. Yeah,
I mean, again, like I said, being around you and knowing you for a while, you're just confident and positive. I mean, what do you? I mean, I know we all have bad days.
Yeah.
How did you handle those times, maybe in high school when you're trying to maybe fit in, and maybe it didn't bother you so much. Yeah. Maybe you were kind of just, I'm doing my thing, I'm okay. Did you ever find yourself struggling with anything like that?
I think that came more in college. So when I went away, I went to BYU, Idaho, and I was away from my parents. That was the first time I really have strong memories of it's just really homesickness, now that I know that I just felt kind of lonely, and I felt a little lost, and I think that was probably the time that I kind of had to grapple with those kinds of.
Gotcha. So it was more in college. Yeah. So how did you end up handling that? Was it just more of just dealing with it over time? And
the truth is, and I think that it's really only at this point in my life that I'm kind of working through this. I went to work, I had not a full-time job, but I had a full work schedule.
Okay.
And I took a lot of credits, and that's how I dealt with a lot of my emotion was, and I really I saw people around me making connections, and I had great roommates who I liked, but I was kind of always putting them at a distance, saying, I don't have time for that, because I got to focus on these other things. And I think that's a pattern that persisted in my life for a long time, where the way I dealt with things emotionally was to just kind of put on more work, to kind of avoid dealing with the emotions of things. And I don't think that it's till this point in my life that I'm starting to work that through and say, oh, does work actually make me happy? It doesn't maybe I need other things in my life to fulfill my needs,
Right. Did you enjoy school? Because obviously learning was a big part of your family kind of culture. When you were in college, were you enjoying that piece of it, like learning new things?
Oh, absolutely. I would say that's like a core part of my identity. Okay. I love learning. And even now it's just to read and to take on a new concept is just the highlight of my life. I love it. I love taking on new thoughts and understanding new things. So
you graduate eventually from college, and you said you went to high school with Josh, your husband now.
Yeah.
When did you guys end up getting married? Was it soon after college, or was it during college? Or
so he served a mission after school, and then I actually left on a mission just a few weeks before he got home. So both of us both of us went on mission. We didn't see each other for 3.5 years. We had been best friends in high school and really close, and then when I was back from my mission, then we just connected again and started dating and got married not that long after that.
Right.
So,
where'd you serve your mission?
in Switzerland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Was it?
It's gorgeous. Yeah, people are so friendly. The most beautiful, friendly place you can imagine.
Boy, Switzerland. I haven't heard that for a while, someone going there. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you guys get married, obviously, and now obviously you have 4 kids and you guys are living this life. And let's just jump ahead just a little bit. Is with your 4 kids, you got amazing kids, and I know you've had a few curveballs, as you say.
Yeah.
With some health issues with specifically with Ollie, your boy. Do you mind sharing that with us and kind of what was going on there?
For sure. So my husband and I were so fortunate. He went to law school, and we graduated, and I got a master's degree, and we just had a lot of things just sort of fall into place and click for us. And, financially things have been kind of smooth sailing, I just feel like we've been blessed on so many levels. And there just every now and then my husband and I would turn to each other and we're like, when are we going to have our trials, you know, like life's been kind of good, but
Right.
but then kind of knock on wood, maybe we'll have a life with no trials. Maybe we'll just be the easy one, you know, the lucky ones who get through that. And my youngest son, you mentioned, so I have 3 girls and then a little boy.
Yeah.
And when it was just a few months before he turned 3, he had a seizure. And it was, out of the blue. I mean, he was perfectly healthy. He has not had a health problem.
No signs of anything.
Nothing.
Right.
But I have a brother who had seizures and his son had seizures. So there's a little bit of sort of family history.
Gotcha.
And my brother is a PA and the one who had seizures. And so we talked on the phone and he's like, you know what, it's probably just a genetic thing and he'll be fine, just like I'm fine and just like my son is fine.
Right.
It's not. It's just sometimes some people have seizures and that was really great of him to call me and support me in that. And that is the most, for most people, like there are a lot of people who have seizures and it's, doesn't tend to be a big problem.
Yeah.
But for Oliver, so we made, and he's like, for sure, go see a neurologist. Like, you need to get this checked out,
Yeah.
So we made the appointment to see a neurologist. And between when he had his first seizure and when we were scheduled in to see the neurologist, he started having these weird spells where he would just fall down, like his complete body would, it's not like he would black out. He was totally conscious,
right?
But his head would just crash to the ground over and over again. And it was like about 10 times a day that this was happening, and it was terrifying. And so by the time that we got into the doctor, we're like, oh, this is something more. What is going on? This is so strange to have our little boy, who's just perfectly healthy in every way and developing perfectly, to start having these problems. And so we went in and they did the EEG and they evaluated him and talked about a couple of different possibilities. There's several seizure disorders that come on at his age and kind of manifest in this way, these types of seizures. And so they're kind of, asking about different things and trying to figure out, but we were going to have a follow-up to figure out what was, an MRI and a whole bunch of different stuff before they can diagnose. And so while we were in the office, they went ahead and did an EEG, and that's where you look at your brain activity to see it. Like, they were like, maybe we can catch a seizure or something like a seizure.
Yeah.
And then, so we had that and we scheduled the follow-up, and then they sent us home, and I was driving home with Oliver in the car. And I got a phone call from the doctor's office, and it was the PA who I'd been working with, and she said, so the doctor who reviews the EEGs looked at your son's EEG and said, these are not the brain waves of a child who can walk or talk. And I was,
you're kidding.
I about drove off the road. Like I was like, what are she he's like, he doesn't believe me when I tell him the little boy that this came from is developing perfectly normally.
You are kidding.
And I really could not even process what she was saying, that like my little boy who, he's a 2-year-old who knows every dinosaur, and he's like there. I just it just couldn't even connect the pieces of what she was saying.
Right.
And being the researcher that I am, I came home, and the couple of things that they were throwing out that's like, well, maybe it's this or maybe this, that, I just start reading everything I can
about it. Right.
Like I'm like, they are holding off on, they don't know what a diagnosis is, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to figure it out.
I'll figure it out.
I got to figure out what this is, and just keep reading and trying to learn what it was. And so I looked up the 2 that they had talked about in the office that start at this age and manifest the way. Both of those are epilepsies that are just degenerative. So you just start having seizures. You do start out developing normally, but then just over, for some people it's quick deterioration, but for other people it's a slower deterioration. But eventually you become less and less cognitively able and less well. And, and I was like, wow, these are the ones that they were saying.
And so you're reading this in your research, and how are you feeling? Like, what was going on in your mind?
I described it to Josh like a slow motion car accident. Like
Man.
something terrible was happening right in front of me, but it was happening very slow motion. Like each layer that I discovered, like first it was like, okay, these seizures aren't just a one-time thing. This is a bigger thing.
Right.
And then, oh no, the doctors are talking about the two things that they think it is you just become to the point of to the level of disabled where you're probably in a wheelchair. You're not, you can't walk, you can't talk. Just like they said, his brainwaves looked like someone who can't walk and can't.
But here he is walking and talking and playing and very smart kid.
Yeah.
I mean, I would see him too. And I mean, before all that happened, I mean, totally active kid, right?
Yeah. Like, I mean that's, in the nursery, they're like, he's the smartest kid in here.
He's the smartest kid.
He has great vocabulary, perfect, I just couldn't process what was going on. I kept researching. I found there was this one other syndrome of epilepsy that looks just like those other two. It's really, they're indistinguishable in the beginning.
Okay.
But with this one, about half of the kids go on to have normal lives. And half of the kids go on to have the outcomes like the others.
Like the others, right.
And I was like, it's going to be that one. I want it to be that. I was telling my husband what I was researching. I was like, I want it to be that one. That's the one it has to be.
It's got to be.
And it was funny because we connected with some people online whose kids were having, there's different epilepsy support groups and stuff. And there were some parents experiencing what we were experiencing. They had just found out, they had gotten that diagnosis of the one that for us was the good diagnosis. They had gotten, and they said, we're devastated. But that was our best case scenario.
Oh,
and
man.
My husband and I are just like, how do we navigate this? That it looks so bleak. But I kept researching, and we're waiting to it. For some reason, it took us a really long time. Like, we had to do an MRI. We had to go through a bunch of steps before we saw the specialist, like the epileptologist who could really diagnose it for our son. He had to also do our son had to do genetic testing and a whole bunch of stuff.
Sure.
So it took a long time before, it was like a month before we could get in to see them. So in the meantime, I'm just like reading everything, hoping so much that it's this one. And but in my reading, I learned that for this specific type of epilepsy, the one I wanted it to be, 80% of the kids who tried the ketogenic diet became seizure-free. And I was like, oh, this is interesting, I want to know more about this. Yeah. So we got in to see the doctor, and after all the genetic testing and the MRI came back, he said, yes, it is. He diagnosed him with the best case scenario one. He said, his genetic. That was a positive. That was what we wanted to hear. Yeah. And he also said, the ketogenic diet is going to be your best bet. And he said, to my fear before, I was like, well, what about this EEG that says he can't walk and can't talk? He's like, well, what happens is over time, if that's what his EEG will continue to look like, unless you stop the seizures, that's what it will be.
That'll be that.
That's people tend to move toward what their brainwaves look like.
Gotcha.
So I'm like, okay, we've got a bad EEG like that. Like, we have the good diagnosis, but we have a bad EEG. It looks terrible. Yeah. And over the next couple of months, so he went from having 10 of those little seizures, those fall down seizures, then it went up to 20. Then it went up to 40 of those a day. So he was falling down every 20 minutes. And, and the doctor's like, do the ketogenic diet, but first we're going to try these medications. That's our protocol, is that we first try these. And the medications did nothing. For some people it's a little miracle, but for us, it just had no impact other than it was made him drunk, that it made it he was kind of. I took him one day when he was at the top dose of his medication, and I was shopping with him, and he was in the shopping cart, and the person checking me out was like, oh, what a well-behaved little boy, because he's just sitting there because he's just total zoned out. And I was like, oh, this is not a well-behaved boy. This is a little drugged little boy who's not who can't focus on anything.
Was that hard to hear that?
Yeah.
Just because you're like, this isn't Ollie, man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, and what a perspective shift on parents who are like, oh, I wish my kids would just
Right.
be more in
Right.
control. And I'm like, I just wanted more than anything to just have a normal little boy. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted a little boy who could run around and be crazy and not
Right.
like I had to be all day long because he could fall down and break his head open at any moment. My two hands had to be on him
Right.
all day long. And so he still wanted to be a normal little boy. He wanted, when he wasn't super on drugs, he wanted to play, but I had to keep him safe and tell him, no, you can't climb on that. You can't do that. It's dangerous.
That would have been
to do
tough. Yeah. Cause you want him to do those things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like you said, what a perspective, because, you know, everyone's like, I wish my kid would just calm down. But now when you're going through this, you say, God, I wish he was running around and climbing the, you know, the side of the wall and the trees and it's what a perspective there.
Yeah.
You know, I know, and I'm going to keep talking about this diet.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you're a faithful member of the Church of Jesus Christ, and I know how did that play a part in all of this as you're going through this? If you don't mind sharing, I mean, we have a lot of listeners who are probably of your same faith, and a lot who believe in a higher power and that kind of thing. And just talk about how that helped you guys as you're kind of going through this as well.
For sure. So really early on, so my husband he's a lawyer, and he's so suited to be a lawyer, because what lawyers do is they protect you from all the potential problems, right? Like that's like in his job, that's what he does professionally. He's an in-house counsel, and so he tells them this could be a liability, this could be a liability, this could be a liability. That's his profession, but that's how he is by nature.
That's just how he is by nature.
And so
that's why he's so good at it.
Right? Like I think in our relationships, I'm the gas and he's the brakes, you know, and you need both of those to drive a car.
So that's why you guys connected, right? Because you guys help each other out.
So it was really interesting. I felt so lost. Like I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I was really not in a good place emotionally while I was going through this. Like really not in a good place. And my husband was so it was atypical for him. He just said, "It's gonna be okay. I know it's like." I've prayed and I've gotten a witness. It's gonna be okay.
Wow.
And I was like, I wish I knew it was gonna be okay.
I want that too. Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if it's gonna be okay. I don't even know. I don't even know what okay looks like. But he just knew. He just said, "This is gonna be okay."
Wow. That's awesome.
We read. There's a scripture, and to me, it is my story. It is. There's a scripture where there's a boy. They say he's possessed of a demon, but they talk about how he falls down. He falls down in the fire. He falls down in the water. And he I just know for me personally, this scripture is about a boy who has Due syndrome. There was a little boy, and the father brings him. This is the father who brings him to the Savior and says, "Help thou my unbelief." And he brings him to the Savior.
Love that story.
And says, I save my little boy. He's just falling down into everything. I can't keep him safe anymore. And he brings him to the Savior, and the Savior says, "Do you believe?" And he says, "I believe. Help thou my unbelief." And that was me. My life was in the scriptures. And someone just like me brought their little boy to the Savior.
Wow.
And he was healed. And that's what my husband told me. He's like, he'll be healed. This is going to be okay. And I was like, okay, I just relied on that. I just had to put away all of, there were so many doubts, and it was this constant pattern in my life of me falling into a pit of doubt and then having to climb back out and say, but Josh says it's going to be okay.
It's the one thing you're holding on to, kind of. Absolutely.
For sure.
Wow.
So
that's powerful. Thanks for sharing that. That's amazing. So get back into where, I mean, you know, the doctors are now, you're on medication, and how did you transition from that to trying out this diet?
So I just felt like the witness I had, it wasn't it's all going to be okay. I felt more doubt about that. I just felt very like, you have to try this diet.
Yeah.
Like I read I was reading stuff online. I found a blog of a mom and some moms who had similar situations and had great success with it and how they made it work. And so the doctor said, yeah, this is a good option. Try it after you try the drugs. So we did that. And then we just kind of had a little bit of a disconnect with the hospital, that like the timing was never quite right, that, you need a hospital admission, and there wasn't a hospital bed available, and it got pushed back a month, and then it was 2 months, and then it was going to be 4 months.
Geez.
And I was just like, I can't
wait. Yeah.
And the doctor had said, if you don't stop the seizures, what the brain waves will be what his outcome is. And I'm feeling like, I don't have time to wait.
Right, yeah.
Like when your brain gets in a pattern of seizures, it will keep in that pattern. You have to do something to stop it. And that's why they do these heavy duty medications, because they're hoping to just change the brain chemistry to change what's going on.
Wow.
But I just knew that he had to do this. And I begged them to train me. And I said, and they're like, well, we have to get some approval from the insurance. And I was like, I will pay out of pocket anything to have you train me on how to do this diet. So they finally are like, okay, the first step is to read this book. And so they gave me a book that I was supposed to read. So I got it and I read it and I memorized it. Like
I bet you did.
I knew everything about that book, and I knew, and so we finally got in they weren't going to do the full hospital admission, but they did have time to just train us in their office. And so we had an initial training and just ran with it, and it ended up being the miracle for him.
Yeah.
He went from having seizures all day long to zero.
No
Did
seizures. You notice it almost immediately, or did it take a while he was, how long in the diet did you start noticing, whoa, look how different?
Yeah. So it took us a while to get up to the level of diet that he needed, so that you kind of started lower. Gotcha. And then, because they're hoping that it'll be effective at a lower dose, because it's hard to do it at but we really had to take it up to the max that they'll let you do. And it's like a 4-to-1 ratio is what it's like. It's the max. He's eating like 90% fat is what it is. And it's hard on the body. Like someone described it's like a knife's edge. You're on a knife's edge between where you're it kind of makes them sick, because it's just so much. Yeah. But then that's what it really takes to change the brain chemistry. And
it's so interesting.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
I know.
But when we went up to that highest level, then it just stopped. Like it was like we had to keep like pushing it up.
That, yeah.
And he was no seizures, but physically he was really sick. His body was still struggling to adjust to the diet. So there was just this process of his body adapting and us figuring out how to keep him right at that right level in the beginning. And now it's not like we don't have to keep him right at that level, but in the beginning we had to keep him at that level of high enough, but not so high that he was really sick.
So now that he's doing better, you don't have to keep him at that level. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So we after he became seizure free for a couple of months, then we got to wean off all the drugs, and then we weaned down a little bit, and he was able to maintain seizure free.
Wow.
And now he's almost 2 years seizure free now.
Are you serious? Yeah, congratulations, and what a miracle. Thank you, God, right?
Seriously. Honestly, right? Every bit of this is to God.
For the doctor to call you in the car and say, or the nurse or whoever it was, we can't figure out why your kid's walking and talking. And like you said, you almost drove off the road. From going from that news to where you're at now, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
He's like a healthy, I had a meeting with his preschool teacher, and she's like, he's just ready to go to kindergarten, knows most of his letters.
Are you serious?
He's just ready to go.
And you're just like,
and we didn't, in the midst of that, we were like, we don't know what the future is.
Yeah, you don't know.
We might, and I had accepted that as my, I was like, well, that if my mission is to care full time for this little boy, because that's what my day looked like, was every day, all day long. But I was accepting that from God. Yeah. That he's so special. He's what God needed me to have, and I will take him in whatever form he is a part of my life.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was powerful.
Yeah.
And again, I just love you and Josh, the way you handle this. And I mean, we watched from a distance, obviously,
Yeah.
and, we were part of fasts and prayers and all of that with you guys, and just to see how this is all kind of turning out. And so I'm so happy for you guys, happy for Ollie. And I mean, that's just awesome,
Yeah.
So real quick, what was the name of what they diagnosed him with?
So it's called Deuce syndrome.
Okay, I want to make sure if
Yeah.
our listeners might have someone they
Yeah.
know that's
Yeah, for sure.
who they don't know what to
Right.
do. So
Right.
Deuce syndrome,
Deuce syndrome, and he did the ketogenic diet.
ketogenic diet
Yeah.
was the one that, who knew? How do they know this stuff?
It's like crazy. It sounds like a crazy magic diet. And it doesn't work for everybody, but for his specific type of epilepsy, it just
was
is the thing that works. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Wow. Well, that's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. And we could really keep going with this, and I want to, but you're doing amazing things, Janae, and I want to talk about what you do. You're so passionate about financial health.
Yeah.
And you teach some very simple yet powerful principles. And so I want to get into that. And obviously we talked a little bit about how your family was always about, hey, let's save money. Let's make sure we're, buying things that we need to or whatever. How did this transform into what you're doing today? And then just get into describing what you do.
For sure. Yeah. Like I told you, like money is like earning money, saving money. I just love to do it. I just have always loved to do it. Right. Like and so it was when I was studying, I got my master's degree in public policy, and it was right during 2008 and 2009. So this is right when the stock market crashed.
When everything crashed. Yeah.
My friends and my family members are like losing their homes, and like foreclosures and all of that is just, it's close to home. It's just it's just so real in people's lives. And so I was studying public finance, but I just kept reading all of these articles that what was going on in the economy. It was so much related to people's personal financial decisions that they were making. And so my policy recommendations kept coming back to, we just need to teach this stuff better. That crash in 2008 and 2009, that was about a lot of people who had taken out loans that they really had no business taking out, right? It was people not understanding these financial concepts. And so I really, by the time I got to the end of that program, that I just had a passion for, I want to teach this. And I was looking for who's doing it in the state. The State Office of Education had this cool website about teaching finance in the classroom, and I was able to get involved with that project and teaching teachers about financial literacy. And I was a teacher trainer and involved in that. And they have like a stock market game, and that's the the high school class of general financial literacy. That was what they were doing, and that was wonderful to be in. Like, it was just such a great thing to be involved with, and that kind of opened a door to teach at Salt Lake Community College. I started teaching personal finance classes there. And that really worked with that stage of life. I was like in the having babies stage of life right then. And so
busy.
teaching as adjunct was just awesome for me.
Sure.
And then as my kids have gotten older, I've kind of I now teach at Brigham Young University in their family finance. I teach the family finance class, and so I feel really really passionate about it. I think something that's kind of transitioned for me, and it sort of relates to the stuff with Ollie, is I just felt like I think that I really grew up thinking that security comes from financial well-being, that I had connected those. And it's not that isn't true. I think I'm very connected with that. But I went, as you go through life and have these experiences, and for us, it was, really this experience with Oliver that that isn't security, like the truth is, life can throw you for a loop at any moment,
at any time.
And was so grateful that our financial life was in place, and we had the medical insurance, and that we were in the position to be able to take care of him. But I think that the transition I've made since then is to recognize that what we're looking for is this sense of security, and it's bigger than dollar signs.
Right. Okay.
It's bigger than a number written on your checking account. That isn't really the big source of security in our lives. And in addition to that, like having a son with epilepsy caused me to study a lot about how brains work. And I'm like, how do I protect his little brain? That was like big on my mind, is like his brain is having a little freak out right now, and how do we make sure his brain works really well? And so it kind of just turned me into this learning. When I've taught for years personal finance, I love, like, my background is like very economics oriented, and I love understanding how the financial industry works and all those nuts and bolts of tax laws and all of that. That's what I'm into. And I would teach my class and tell them, I understand there's like a whole psychological component of managing money. I'm not going to help you at all with that.
Right.
I'm only going to help you with understanding the nuts and bolts, because that's what I know.
That's what you know. Yeah.
So I'm like, I guess you're just going to have to take a different class if you want to learn how this works.
Right.
I get that. I know that that's an element, but I didn't really engage very much at all in that. And since, like, I've just had a lot of personal growth in my own life, and realizing, and the class I teach at BYU really revolves around how does money operate inside of your family relationships.
Oh, okay.
And talking about in your marriage and in your teaching your children about money. And these things have all pushed me in this direction of, I needed to understand how our brains work with money, that piece that I was trying to pretend didn't exist.
Sure.
It's actually huge.
Yeah. Wow.
And it really drives so much of what we're doing with money. So I've really transitioned in. I still love all of that stuff. And I'm still it could teach every part. I just love it.
Yeah.
But I'm really embracing this idea, and it's so interesting. And you probably in your profession understand this as well, that we think that the way we make decisions is just from our higher brain, like we have a thought, we make a goal, and then tomorrow we just wake up and do it. And then we're also shocked when we don't do it. You're like, I had a budget. What happened to the budget?
Yeah.
And the truth is, like, when you understand more about how the brain works, that's actually not at all how our brains work. We don't operate from our higher brain.
Right, we don't.
We operate from our emotions. And our thoughts are what create our emotions.
Yep.
But we have all kinds of beliefs that are creating all of these emotions for us. And when people start to, and this is what I have been teaching a lot lately, when people start to take some time to understand what some of those underlying beliefs that we have about money, it's powerful. It's powerful.
It is.
And a lot of it, it's so interesting. A lot of it is shame. And we have guilt, and we have, like, when it comes to money, we have all kinds of different emotions that have been layered on through, we feel like we're not good enough, right? We have this feeling of lack when it comes to money, like, just I'm missing out on something. I don't have enough.
Yeah.
And those types of feelings, it's so interesting. We think that, if I keep telling myself I'm a bad money manager, that's going to turn me into a good money manager.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, you never want to motivate yourself with the reverse of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And you're speaking my language now.
Right?
And I love this. I'm over here going, yes. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're a financial therapist.
Right. No,
Really,
that's
truly.
actually what they call it.
Is that what they call it?
There is this whole branch.
Way.
I've just discovered it. I just learned about it
That's
I'm
amazing.
studying about the brain, and I study about money, and poof, like, there is financial therapy.
Well, it doesn't surprise me, because when you're talking, because we've talked a little bit, and you kind of know where I'm at too, is belief dictates our behavior every time. Mm-hmm. So when you say people, and it's interesting when you say this, because I'm analyzing myself around money in my head as you're saying this, but when there's shame behind it, that shame says I'm bad, or I've done bad things, or it's a negative. Therefore, my behavior will mirror that.
Yep.
So you got to resolve that.
Yep.
And then it changes the way you handle your money, right?
Yeah, for
so
sure.
Anyway,
yeah, like,
I love what you're saying.
So right now I have developed a course that combines these the learning about your thoughts about money and some of the really powerful concepts that I have about this. What I've always taught of, like, the steps that you go through to manage your money.
Okay.
But then we've added in a component of understanding what this is bringing up for you emotionally.
Wow, I love that.
It's
Does anyone
powerful.
do that?
I don't know. I don't know. I am doing.
You are. That's what I'm saying. I think you're the only one that's doing that. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I love it because I really do believe that they go hand in hand. And if you understand, like you're saying, if you understand the way you think and believe about it, and if it's negative on some level, let's resolve that and watch how your way you manage money changes.
Well, and then instead of, because what we do have with money management is let's just change the behavior. So we're just hitting on behavior, and there's so much resistance around it. It's so frustrating to just focus on changing behavior. But it's amazing when you step back and you start looking at belief systems and emotions, the resistance floats away. So then when I can resolve some of that emotional buildup that I have, then the money stuff, like that's where our work is to do. We think our work is on the action part. I've just got to get myself to spend less money. Yeah. But for some reason, I just never can get myself to do it. There's a reason why. There's a really good reason why you're feeling that way. Yeah. And we're going to work on, I just find it so powerful when you combine that. I'm going to teach you all the good. I'm going to teach you how the time value of money. So like when you put your money in the right places, how it grows, and it grows exponentially, and it's become so powerful. Yeah. But I'm gonna also teach you how your brain works with money. And when you combine those, it's really unstoppable. It's really powerful stuff.
Sign me up.
Yeah, right?
I'm serious. Sign me up. I'm serious. I want to be, I'm in.
So great.
I am in. I love that. You know, it's funny because, my wife and I over the last, I would say 6-7 months have been on this, let's pay off debt, and not just pay it off. Yeah. And I've always had this belief before I was doing this that, like if I see a number in my bank account that's big, let's say it's a big number, I would look at that and go, that's impossible. That number is impossible to pay off. And then through this, because I teach belief system stuff too, I thought, what am I doing? I'm not practicing what I'm preaching with this. So I started going, no, that number's nothing. Right. That number, I'm going to crush that number. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I won't give specifics, but we have paid off in the last 7, and it's addicting. It is, I love it. I love just like, I can't wait. What's the next bill? I'm going to just chop away. Yeah. It's so cool. So I'm in, Janae, with what you're doing. Great. I love it. That is so cool. So this is what you do.
This is what I do.
Man, so how does someone get to know you and sign up with you and learn what you do? Yes. And get taught by you.
I would love to come teach me. I'm teaching a class right now, and we're just having such a powerful,
I bet.
It's amazing.
Dang.
So you can follow me at Janae Talks Money on Instagram. And I have, I'm doing webinars where I'm going to teach. I'm teaching why your budget isn't working. So these same concepts that we're going to talk about, I'll go into them a little bit more in depth and talk about, why you think your budget's not working and why it actually isn't working.
Right, gotcha. Okay.
And then if that's the first step, is come to that webinar and come learn more about it. And then I will, I'm in a course right now, but when that course concludes, then we'll open up registration again for my next course, and then so that periodically comes up. It's every 6 weeks that it opens up. And that people can get in on that.
Is it a different topic each time, or do you keep it the same?
Yeah, so this course is the Better Budget course. So it's the course where we go through a systematic process of understanding where you're at right now with budgeting, and then I really give you what we're doing is taking all of the drama out of your budget, and we're setting up a budget that you...
It's a good way to put it.
All the drama, right? I think of it is, so we make so many decisions with our lizard brain. Yep. We're creating a budget that you can do with your lizard brain, because you know what? That's the brain that's going off when you buy those Oreos at, or whatever that impulse shopping is for you.
TV.
The big screen TV. Yeah. For some people it's little things, and other people it's the real big things.
It's big things, right? Yeah.
So we're going to create a budget that isn't resistance against that. It's working with all of that and creating you to be a really powerful money manager.
Okay.
So,
That's amazing. So they would go to your Instagram, which is Janae Talks Money.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's where they can sign up for the webinar.
On my link in my profile.
Okay.
If you go to that link, then there's a place that you can just sign up for my next webinar.
So even though this one now is closed, you can still go and sign up and be ready for when it starts up in a few more weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow, that's awesome. So if someone wants to ask you a question, let's say they want to talk about what you went through with Ollie and how you guys handled that, and or if they got questions just about you personally, or obviously on the financial end of things, what would be the best way for them to actually ask you specifically a question?
Yeah.
Same way?
Same way, yeah. Or you can, I have my email address is janaetalksmoney@gmail.com.
Okay.
So if you want to just send me a direct message, if you have, yes, I would love to answer. I mean, I because so many people supported us through what we went through with Ollie, it was really a really amazing online community. I feel really passionately about giving back to that. Like people who are facing those same kinds of things, I'd love to talk to people about that. And then of course all the money questions. I mean, I live and breathe money management. So bring your questions to me.
This is a off the cuff question here, but do you do financial coaching, like where you maybe coach a family or individuals, or is it more just in a larger setting?
So I have been just doing it in the group setting, but there will be possibilities if people who go through that initial course with me and they're like, okay, we like this method and we would like to keep going on this, that would be available to do like a one-on-one coaching and kind of more of a wealth building plan or estate planning kind of thing. So
well, even the reason why I'm saying this is that like you sitting down with someone, and I picture, because this is exactly what I do,
right?
Just I'm dealing with addictions and anxiety and depression, but so are you on some level, right? It's just with a different thing. But I mean, I just sit there imagining you sitting there one-on-one with someone, helping them change their belief system around money. I mean, you want to talk about, people would be signing up left and right for that. I'm in. Yeah. I'm serious. So, I'm sure you've thought about all this. Yeah. I'm over here going, Janae, this is your business plan right here. You know what I'm saying? Sorry.
I feel the same way, Todd. I'm like, this is powerful. The world needs to know this.
Yeah. You'll be as busy as I am. You know, you really will. Just like clients coming left and right. But anyway, I love what you do, Janae, and I love you're passionate about it. And it's so cool if we go all the way back to when you were being raised by your great mom and dad and your siblings and everything, and how you just saw what they did and how, man, it brings peace when we control this part of our lives. And then I also want to point out again, when your dad would bring you in on these big topic conversations, how that would build that confidence in you. Yeah. And I just so cool as we go through your story, how that confidence has led you to handle these tough curveballs, and obviously with the help of the God that you worship and all of that, and a great husband. And anyway, it's so cool watching your story unfold as you're talking. I'm over here going, oh, that led to this and that led to this. Yeah. And then what you're doing today is really cool.
Thank you for having me on. I have just the deepest respect for you.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot coming from you, honestly. And we love your family, and I think what you're doing's so needed, so fantastic, and you're going to help so many people. So there you go, people. Thanks, Janae. You're amazing. What I told you guys, this was going to be great. I'm pumped. I'm going to go pay off some debt right now. Anyway, I want to thank you for listening in. Thank you for all your support. Share this with all the people that you know. If you know people who are struggling with money, make sure they listen to this and then reach out to Janae at Janae Talks Money on her Instagram. And you can, sign up for a webinar and ask her a personal question. And, she can coach you and get you to where you need to be. And I know I'm going to do this. And so please do. And till next time. And again, I love all of you. Thank you.